yourself there?
Yes.
You're just in.
We are broadcasting today from the lands of the Wurundjeri and the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our deepest respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Sovereignty was never ceded. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Hi, and welcome to Making It In Moreland, works from the Moreland Writers in residence. I'm Izzy Roberts-Orr, your host for today's session, along with a couple of the 2020 Moreland Writers in residence, who I'll introduce you to in a minute. I myself am a poet, writer, audio producer, and arts worker, and I'm here today in my capacity as a member of the Moreland Arts Board Advisory Committee, which is a consultative committee made up of volunteers who assist Moreland Council with policies, priorities, and community involvement and participation in the arts within the municipality. So in this session, you'll hear excerpts from the projects that our writers have been working on as part of their residencies. And we'll then have a short break and a bit more of a discussion around writing craft and their experiences of the program and how they've been using their time to further develop their work. And within that session, which is over on Facebook Live, there's instructions on the website about how you can follow and ask some questions. That's interactive. So if you're watching and you want to ask some questions about your own application, for example, or the work of these writers, you're very welcome to. We'll take those questions in that second session. I do want to introduce you to Kamarra Bell-Wykes as well, who unfortunately is no longer able to join us today. So Kamarra is the third of the three writers in residence for 2020 this year. Kamarra Bell-Wykes is a descendant of the Yagara and Butchulla people of southeast Queensland, and she's one of Moreland Writers in residence. Her latest play, Who's Gonna Love 'Em, is directly inspired by her time living in Fawkner, and her imaginings on the spiritual and historical significance of the local area, specifically the Fawkner Memorial Park and the country and suburban features from Boundary to Camp Road and Lynch Road in between. The Moreland Writers in residence has given her dedicated time and space to write the project and has also supported her research component by utilising Moreland Library's local historical archives. Inspired by the fictional imaginings of Fawkner, Who's Gonna Love 'Em explores the experiences of a family framed by a legacy of trauma, ongoing cycles of dysfunction and against the odds resilience. By challenging Australian stereotypes and narratives, it searches for answers in the grey areas of the crime scene where Black and white Australia meets, asking, will payback give us the healing we seek? So no doubt we'll be able to see that play, whether in development or in a full production at some point in the not too distant future. Who's Gonna Love 'Em? That's the title, Kamarra Bell-Wykes. So keep an eye out for that one. And I'm sure as well, if you sign up for the Moreland Arts newsletter that goes out regularly, they'll have some updates on that as well. So yeah, unfortunate that Kamarra couldn't be here, but I highly encourage you to check out her work as well. And now to the writers that we are joined by today. Millie Baylis, sitting over here in my left little window, is a writer, editor, and arts worker. She is the current program coordinator for the Emerging Writers Festival. So lucky us, she's managed to wrangle some time out of running the festival to come and talk with us this afternoon. In 2019, she was a Wheeler Centre Hot Desk Fellow and the managing editor of Visible Ink. And in 2020, she's a Moreland Writer in residence. She writes essays, memoir, and commentary, largely about living with chronic illness and an invisible disability, and her work has recently appeared in Kill Your Darlings, Overland, and The Victorian Writer. Swimming Lessons will be a collection of intimate essays about the after effects of trauma on the body and mind, living with chronic mental and physical illness, and writing about the self. The essays will also touch on disability, memory, family history, violence, sexuality, homes, siblings, and love. Hi, Millie.
Hello.
Hi, Millie.
Koraly.
And we are also joined by Koraly Dimitriadis. Koraly is a Cypriot Australian writer and performer. She's the author of the poetry books Love and Fuck Poems and Just Give Me the Pills. And together they form the basis for her theatre show, Saying the Wrong Things. Koraly also makes short films of her poems. She's a freelance opinion writer and has been published in the Washington Post. Koraly was awarded the UNESCO City of Literature residency, a Wheeler Centre Hot Desk Fellowship, and a Moreland Writers residency for her debut novel, Divided Island. Divided Island is a love story that explores who we love and how we love. Never feeling like she's ever belonged in Australia, Ella is in her parents' homeland, Cyprus again, haunted by a first love she's never been able to let go of. It began in the year 1999, where her parents' fear of foreign Australia plagued her every move, and conforming to Greek Orthodox sexist norms was mandatory. Prowling nightclubs in search of the one and suffering from an undiagnosed and culturally stigmatized mental illness, Ella is drawn to the new buzz of online chatting, where she meets an American-born Cypriot windsurfer, George. Both closeted sketch artists, they exchange drawings via post, but the relationship must be kept secret. Ella is not allowed to have a boyfriend. Neither of them have ever fallen in love before. But can you fall in love with someone you've never even met? Can that love last a lifetime? Spanning 17 years and set against the political backdrop of the divided island of Cyprus, from the smoky strobe lights of Melbourne's Metro nightclub to the windsurfing aqua blue waters of Cyprus, Divided Island screams with the rage of the children of migrants. Culture kept them fenced into Melbourne's northern suburbs, and love was the only way out. Hi, Koraly.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's fabulous to be joined by you both today. Well, welcome. We will kick off into having a bit of a chat together in this second section, but without any further introduction, I will introduce you, Millie, and looking forward to hearing an excerpt of your work.
Thank you, Izzy. Thanks for that lovely introduction, and it's very nice to be here. I also just want to acknowledge that I'm currently broadcasting from unceded Wurundjeri country, and just to pay respects to their elders past and present. I'm going to be reading a little excerpt from, I guess, the title essay of what this project is named after, about getting swimming lessons in Moreland in Brunswick. And I'll just be reading the start of it. It's sort of using my learning to swim as a way to comment on sort of the way we attach value to physical wellness and ability. So I'll just read a bit of it. In spring, as part of my new treatment, I decide to take up swimming lessons. When I arrive at the baths for my first lesson, the evening is lit up by the string of gold globes across the old building. The air smells like chlorine and jasmine. It's the first time I've been outside all day, having been in pain, watching the trees from my window in bed and resting my body for the exertion. At the counter, the guy asks if I have any medical conditions. I joke, "How much time have you got?" But he doesn't laugh back. "We only need to know about any physical conditions," he says, and I don't know how to feel about the fact he's already decided there's definitely at least mental ones going on. I tell him my chronic illnesses and their correct spelling. I tell him they shouldn't be an issue, but if I faint, to just feed me salt to raise my blood pressure. I show him the salt sachets in my purse, stolen from McDonald's and cafes. "If you faint, we do what?" he says, and I tell him not to worry about it. I've always wanted to be a woman who swims laps. One imagines women who swim laps to live in beautiful houses with fashionable furniture and art and everything in balance. That their grace in the water somehow translates to grace in all other aspects of their life too. I think if I were them, I would post so many photos of my beautiful house and beautiful self on Instagram. Maybe I'd even post videos of myself swimming. But in this projection, they don't, because they don't need to. It's enough to secretly live an aesthetic dream in perfect health and then have people over for dinner parties who think, "Wow, your life looks like this," and you don't even need to draw attention to it. I think they probably don't even have Instagram. Something about their ability to swim also erases any need for vanity or validation, and they probably spend their time doing other better things, like swimming laps, or eating nectarines, or doing crosswords, or writing poetry, or watching Q&A. I'm not sure if I want to sleep or I'm not sure if I want to be or sleep with one of these women. But lately I'm noticing how much of what one finds attractive is so often, so inherently tied up with health and physical ability. Inside the pool, bodies are milling about and the sounds bounce around the huge room. Small children fill 3 of the lanes reserved for swimming lessons. They glide together effortlessly like schools of smug, colourful fish, their orange and green and pink goggles bobbing up and down out of the chemical water. The other adult beginners and I find each other on the bench. We make shy jokes about our not being able to swim. One woman tells me she can hardly bear to be near deep water at all without panicking, but wants to learn so she can go into the ocean with her children. I learn I'm the only one who grew up in so-called Australia, where learning to swim is part of the school curriculum, and I feel ashamed about my lack of good reason for never having learned, other than my stubborn shyness and fear of getting stuff wrong as a kid, which turned into avoidance. I remember when my mother's ex-boyfriend took our family to Bali for our first ever family holiday. After hearing we still couldn't swim, he threw me and then my younger sibling into the deep side of the pool. "How else will you learn?" he said, as we tried to find something to hold on to. Now I can see this as an early hint of his violence, but back then I just knew I'd failed his test. For the rest of the holiday, I drank mango juice and slept. My cardiologist once described people with POTS, my autonomic nervous system disorder, as having similar physiology to astronauts returning home. After being in space, astronauts' bodies struggle to adapt to gravity. Their hearts pump smaller amounts of blood with faster heart rates. When they return to Earth and stand, they often faint. For whatever reason, my autonomic nervous system struggles to adapt to gravity, and upon being upright for prolonged periods, my blood vessels don't tighten as they should, my heart races, and something deep wants to pull me back down to the floor. But when I wade into the pool, the water holds my body, reducing the effects of gravity, and I'm shocked. In the water, I can stand without symptoms. Our swimming instructor is a young guy, a young, buff or fit or sinewy guy, and I consider falling in love with him. Then I remember that I'm a student in his beginner swimming class and that he's holding a bucket bursting with brightly coloured kickboards and noodles, and that he probably has a girlfriend at home who definitely swims laps. We spend our lesson learning the correct technique for breathing during freestyle, blowing bubbles underwater and practicing our kicking from the hips, not the knees. But I can't make half a lap before I have to stop, out of breath and my heart hammering. Across the pool, by the spa, I notice a grey leather wheelchair. I think automatically of my older sister. Her last wheelchair before she died was the same colour. I wonder if she ever went swimming, and I think to call my dad, who I've just gotten in touch with again, to ask. The swimming instructor tells me to keep going. He tells me soon I'll be more strong and capable. I'm relieved when we get to float. Starfished in the water, I feel no pain. After class, the night is crisp and dark blue. I walk home through the quiet streets, feeling the new lightness and ease of my body. I pass spindly eucalyptus trees, magnolias in bloom, a tennis court under streetlight. At home, I drink a beer sitting down in the shower and wash the chlorine from my skin. My muscles ache, but in a good way, in a way that feels right from them having been used. And after, I sleep like a baby. I think I'll end it there. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Millie. Yeah.
Really beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, I want to dive into talking about that, but we will save it for the next session. Thank you very much. And now, Koraly, we'd love to hear from you.
Thanks, Izzy. Thanks for having me. I want to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land. This was and always will be Aboriginal land. I'm going to be reading from the start of my novel. I'll read the preface and then a small section of chapter 2, which is, the preface is chapter 1. And so, yeah, enjoy. Zoom that in. It never feels like I'm going. It's as if I'm on a day trip and I'll be back in my 2-bedroom flat by nightfall. Tomorrow I'll wake up, send off a few emails, do some writing. I'll work in my tiny home office nook in my pajamas. Around lunchtime, I'll get dressed in my winter woolies and I'll catch the tram down Sydney Road to meet Marcy at Andre's Cafe. There we'll talk art, boys, and laugh. She'll lecture me on why I haven't started meditating, and I'll feel like a cigarette, even though I haven't touched one in years. I've just taken a seat on the final leg of my journey at Dubai Airport, and this is when it happens. The Emirates flight attendants file through the aisles, click down the overhead baggage compartments. The first announcement muffles through the speakers. Kyries και κύριοι, σας καλωσορίζουμε. My ears drink in the rich Cypriot accent and my body registers it with a rush of exhilaration. I'm going to Cyprus. I'm going home. And then, just like a melodramatic Greek song full of passion, nostalgia, and grief, the memories come for me. The memories, the ones I cannot shed, the people who linger in our lives like ghosts, the memories that reach in and strangle us when we least expect it, yank us into our past. They chase us, they catch up. Like a time machine, this aircraft has control now, and it's as if I'm not the one sitting on the plane, but she is. She is a 19-year-old girl I do not recognize as myself, a separate entity who did things and acted in ways I cannot make sense of. But she's not living with the consequences. I am. I remember my younger self. Her name is Allah. I see her faint image like you do a character in a film you watched a long time ago. I don't remember much of that time. Maybe it's better forgotten. My memory exists in fragments, moments I've chosen to remember over others which, when brought together, do not form any kind of clear picture. It's like it all happened to someone else. It was another daughter, another father, another mother. It wasn't real. My parents are not those of young Allahs. But then something happens, I do something to myself, and in the background of my psyche, trauma connects the dots even if I can't. Trauma remembers, trauma knows. Sometimes I wonder if Cyprus remembers what happened. The island is small, everyone knows everyone, people talk, and I'm a regular visitor, always returning, always wanting more. Cyprus is the island of my mother, the island of my father. They gave it up so I could have more in Australia. But this generational pain that aches in my chest is erroneously anchored to other memories, memories better buried. Because when I think of Cyprus, I think of Limassol, the city of wind. I think of Ladysmile Beach. I think of a windsurfer on its waves and how together they dance a tumultuous dance. Love must laugh at us humans. It must think we are ridiculous. I know for me, it won't come again. My heart is a tangle of relationships and childhood conditionings wound so tight even the most determined man cannot win. Nobody loves like their first, where you love wide and blind because you don't know hurt. It wasn't about love anyway, it was about escape. Wisdom and years of therapy have gifted me such insights. But all this logic seems irrelevant now. I'm travelling to Aphrodite's island, and in Cyprus her law reigns. She is the ancient goddess of love and beauty who rose from the Cypriot waters on a scalloped shell, and on her island, love governs all. Anything to drink? The flight attendant asks, interrupting my thoughts. I do not hesitate. Vodka. Chapter 2, Autumn 1999. Friday nights at Metro were called joy. It was the allure of the masquerade that drew her to such places. Hiding between the strobe lights, it was dark and loud enough to be free. Away from the watchful gaze of her parents, she could just be anyone. Initially, it was built as the Palace Theatre in 1912. Spanning 3 levels, it was decorated in gold-patterned cornices and architraves and Cupid figurines reminiscent of a Renaissance painting. When you looked up from the dance floor, the structure resembled an elegant 3-tier cake. She had been drinking vodka the night she finally kissed Josh. They were in one of the red leather booths on the top floor which overlooked the dance floor and stage. The techno music masked their moans. His hand caressed her breast. She liked how kisses fell on her neck and tongues meeting in mouths. But like Cinderella, curfew was approaching. This made her only want it more. In this temporary embrace, she received her validation rush. This was a huge accomplishment, not like an academic achievement her parents enjoyed bragging about to her aunts and uncles and other distant relatives in the community. It was a personal one, just for her. Her cousin Milos eventually came for her. He tapped her shoulder hard enough for her to cry out. She grabbed at it, then burst into a hysterical tipsy laughter. "Who are those guys?" Josh said. Ella wiped her giggle tears. "It's my cousin. I have to go." "See you next Friday?" he asked. "Yeah." Milos was always telling Ella he was glad he didn't have a sister, and he told her again that night as they waited with his friends in line at the cloakroom before he yanked her out of Metro. "I love you and everything, but you're annoying." How many times was he supposed to scour the clubs looking for her? He would have to get her home fast. No way did he want a repeat of what happened 6 months ago. Her dad had deadlocked the door from inside. What a drama. He had to sit in the car with her while she cried. And he copped it big time from his mum too. A car they didn't see coming screeched to a stop as the group crossed Burke Street. The driver yelled obscenities. They ran on, through to the laneway and into the multi-level car park. It was a 40-minute drive to Thomastown, the working-class industrial back end of Melbourne. It was not the city and it was not the southern suburbs of wealth. The northern suburbs knew their place in the hierarchy of Melbourne, and Ella knew where her place was within it. She smoked in the back seat, stared out the window. Nothing would make her laugh, not even Right Said Fred's "I'm Too Sexy" playing on the radio. Milos pulled up to the driveway. The time 2:30 sat in the base of her stomach like a brick. She was regretting the kiss with Josh. God would surely be punishing her for it with her father's wrath. Television flicker illuminated the darkness. She stepped out of her heels, moved quiet and slow. He would often stay up waiting for her, eventually pass out on his recliner from worry and overthinking. The Orthodox priest on the Greek's channel chanted into the stillness of the living room. She should have gone straight to bed while she remained unnoticed, but she wanted more. When she was almost at the spare room door, her father's snore scrambled, and "What time is this?" came out in Greek. She halted. "Sorry." "Sorry," he retorted, throwing her words back in her face like dirt. It was a lack of respect that infuriated him. He needed sleep to provide for the family, and she was always pushing for more. She had no idea what responsibility meant. Her gaze fell to the floor tiles. She studied the triangular patterns like they were a puzzle she needed to solve. His silence kept her there. She was unsure if or how she was allowed to move next. She waited until excruciation pushed her to gamble. Holding her breath tight like it was a life vest, she motioned towards the spare room, expecting his objection with each step. Resting against the closed door once she was in, she waited on the tip of tension until she heard him shuffle off to bed. Moving with as little sound as possible, she made her preparations to go online. The computer beeped. The modem made its dial and connect sounds through the phone line. Thanasia and Kristalla had purchased a new family toy for educational purposes, but they were very well aware of the recreational elements, even though they were too intimidated by the technology to go near it. Better on the computer, they thought. Melbourne was not Cyprus where people left their windows and doors unlocked without a second thought. MIRC was a very basic chat program, a white window with black characters where everything was temporary, even your nickname. Like meeting points in cyberspace, chat rooms came into existence when its first member joined and were erased when the last member left. Just like entering a physical room, you were not privy to what was said before you entered or after you left. To chat one-on-one, you had to meet in a chat room first, then click on a member, which opened up another conversation window. The internet was also unreliable. MIRC often disconnected in a session, or sometimes it lagged in that the delivery of the message was delayed. Ella's cousin Anastasia from Cyprus congregated online with her friends in the chat room Gafedaki, miniature coffee. Anastasia invited Ella too, and when Ella was in there, it was almost like being out for post-clubbing souvlaki with a group of friends in Cyprus. That night, Anastasia and George were the only ones in the chat room. She jumped straight into sharing her news. Anna loves, I'm so happy for you. I was thinking of you today. Ella, escape. It must have been your good luck then. Anna loves, I hope you fall in love and get married. Ella, escape. Who knows? George, are you still there? Anna loves, where did he go? Probably surfing. Ella, escape. Ha ha. But he always says bye before he goes. USA Surfer 1976. I'm here. Ella, escape. Why are you so quiet? USA Surfer 1976. I was doing something. Ella, escape. I kissed Josh. USA Surfer 1976. Yes. Ella, escape. Aren't you going to say anything? USA Surfer 1976. Like what? Anna loves, don't pay attention to him. Did he ask for your phone number? USA Surfer, e bella ne mas. She's driven us mad. Ella, escape. Sorry. USA Surfer 1976. All you do is talk about this guy. Anna loves, she's in love, that's why. Ella, escape. Anna, do you think it means something if he didn't ask for my number? He said he would see me next week. Anna loves, okay, see him next week. Ella, escape. What do you think, George? USA Surfer 1976. About what? Ella, escape. I need a guy opinion. USA Surfer 1976. My opinion is time for the beach. Bye. That's it. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you, Koraly. I love the chat names. So good. What is it? USA Surfer 1976. Brilliant. Very, very good, George. Well, we'll save the have a bit of a chat about what you've been working on in the next session, but I will just give a little bit more detail about the program to anyone who's watching before we wrap up this section and then head into a little break and then our Q&A interactive session. So if you've got any questions for both of these writers, whether it be about their practice, their craft, what they read, or their applications to the program, if that's something that you want to ask about, hold on to those for the next session as well. I just wanted to give a little context about the Moreland Writers in Residence program, because I think that's something, well, firstly, it's something I didn't do, but also it's interesting kind of thinking about that after hearing both of your work. So the Writers in Residence program in Moreland is a unique opportunity for 3 writers to develop their practice within the Moreland arts community. And it was developed as part of the Moreland Arts and Culture strategy, so it's very much tied into council's aims around arts and culture within that municipality. And it recognises the vital role that writers play to that creative sector in Moreland. And the aim of the program is to support writers at all stages of their career with resources and space to strengthen their professional practice. And I think this year we actually have a really great span within the 3 writers in terms of kind of practice and career stage and experience and focus. So that really speaks to kind of the breadth of what the program's interested in supporting, I think. And in line with Council's human rights policy, the Moreland Writer in Residence program is also designed specifically to encourage writers who face additional barriers in the development of their writing careers. So, for example, writers with disability, female writers, queer writers, and writers from culturally and linguistically diverse communities, as well as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander writers, which is an important point to think about if you're interested in applying for it as well. So the categories that the program is specifically targeted towards is fiction, non-fiction, poetry, and drama. But yeah, all types and genres of storytelling are considered, unless you're a full-time academic. So yeah, 3 writers get this opportunity every year. as we've heard from Millie and Koraly, and I mentioned earlier Kamarra as well. And the period of time is kind of negotiated with the writers and their location. We'll talk about that a bit more in the next session as well. But each of the writers also received a $3,000 honorarium to support them having time to write, as well as the space, and really being able to focus on that. The program's not open for applications at the moment, but last year the applications were taken in October. So for anyone who's listening to this session now and thinking about applying, I'd encourage you to sign up to Moreland's newsletter and put that October kind of date on your radar, in your calendar, and think about that as well. Okay, well, let's wrap up here for the minute. We will be on Facebook Live in half an hour at 5 o'clock, having a bit of a chat between Millie and Koraly and I, talking about craft, talking about what makes a good application to the Writer in Residence program, and also just talking about what we've been reading and researching and interested in lately. So yeah, if you've enjoyed listening to their work, come and join us for that Q&A, and feel free to bring along any questions as well. Thank you very much.
Please do. See you soon.
See you. Bye.
I think we're still live.
We're ending. Thank you. Bye.